603, I call on David Shearer to make his valedictory statement, and I understand it is the wish of the House to suspend for the dinner break at the conclusion of the statement. David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Tēnā koutou katoa. Sir, the last valedictory in this House was delivered by my friend Phil Goff, and he seems to have started something of a trend. But our speeches are going to be somewhat different. Phil's lasted almost 30 minutes, 1 minute for every year he's spent in Parliament. So following his lead, mine is going to be short and sweet. I'd like to start by congratulating Bill English and Paula Bennett. Bill proved this week that perseverance certainly does pay, and I wish them both my very best wishes and good on them. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank John Key for his service to New Zealand, and I believe he showed courage in standing aside when he did. You know, it's worthwhile looking back over your maiden speech when you depart, and comparing the ambition of at that time, my achievements do look a bit lean. I haven't been in government, I wasn't in cabinet, and I didn't even get to be Prime Minister. As the song goes, regrets I had a few. But the goal is always to leave, sir, maybe with a few regrets, but without bitterness. And that's how I leave today, because in so many ways my political journey has been immensely satisfying. First, it's been a privilege to be a member for Mount Albert. It's a real joy to both live in my community and contribute to it. I've given many forgotten and forgettable speeches in my time, but I do remember the people who have come into my office seeking support and who I've been able to, or try to, help out. Voters in Mount Albert, sir, sit all over the political spectrum, yet they took me to heart as their MP. But there's always the odd exception. And I remember standing outside Edendale School one day at 3 o'clock, as you do, handing out leaflets, and a woman walked by and muttered something insulting as she went to pick up her child. She came past me again, tugging her 6-year-old boy behind her as she walked, and he looked up and waved, "Hello, David Shearer." Sadly, I'll be out of here before he gets to be voting age. To the people of Mount Albert, thank you for your support, and sorry to cut out so early compared to my predecessors. Being an MP is an extraordinary vantage point to see and understand your own country. And I've been privileged to meet many great people, and I've particularly enjoyed, because it's been new to me, the access to businesses and to scientists and to innovators that many people in New Zealand never get to meet. And we have such wonderful talent out there. The reason for my attachment to the Labour Party is quite heartfelt and very simple. Over the past century, no other institution has shaped New Zealand and how we see ourselves as people. We take its boldness and its achievements for granted. But my fascination has always been what went through the minds of those leaders before their landmark decisions, before they launched into the unknown. How did Michael Joseph Savage feel before pioneering a social safety net for New Zealanders in a world where it's never existed before? Or what was Kirk thinking before deciding to send a frigate into Mururoa? Or those who sought to take a risk to settle Maori grievances right back to 1840. The Waitangi Tribunal, I want to say, as an institution, has been extraordinarily healing in our country. It simultaneously is a truth commission. It drafts history, acknowledges wrong and compensates for loss. And I actually think we should export it. The world needs it more than anything else. But those nation-shaping decisions and others relied on courageous people who stood up in spite of what the polls said or the focus groups, and they were big and they were visionary and they occurred under Labour. They were about being progressive. So if I could make one teeny-weeny, wafer-thin criticism of this government, it would, with such immense political capital, I think it could have been more ambitious. Our economy, sir, still resembles the 1960s. My first speech, I remember, as Labour leader, focused on our need to broaden our economy beyond primary products. Other like-sized countries, Denmark, Singapore, Israel, and Mr Brownlee, even Finland, have overtaken us. Our Science, technological and creative endeavours still await the step change they deserve, and it's perhaps actually our biggest challenge in this country. My second speech as leader advocated a living wage, and I think the debates over tax cuts miss the point. The most fundamental way to address inequality is actually to lift wages. Right now, our taxes effectively subsidise those who choose to pay low wages. A woman stopped me in the street a couple of weeks ago and said she had returned to New Zealand 5 years ago and was struggling to get her small business going. I'd have made more money buying a house in Sandringham, she said. Yes, I do believe we need a capital gains tax. We now spend more on pensioners than on educating our young. Yes, I do think we need to address the age and cost of retirement. Average prices of houses in Mount Albert exceeded 1 million, actually quite a long time ago. Yes, I do think it's time for the government to get in and build houses. I believe in free trade agreements because we will always have greater opportunities and strategic leverage being connected than being disconnected at the bottom of the Pacific. Free trade can concentrate wealth, though, and it's the job of governments to ensure prosperity is shared and that inequality is addressed. And if there's one thing that Brexit and the US elections have shown us, is that governments can no longer sit back in their sort of laissez-faire splendour as they've done for the last 2 generations. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition is the toughest job in politics. And I can tell you without doing it, nobody knows quite how tough it is. And of course, everyone around you is the world's expert on what you should be doing. So Andrew, I wish you all the very best. I think you possess the personal qualities that this job needs. For me, the Labor leader was both a highlight and ultimately, obviously, a disappointment. It's a huge privilege now to have my photo on the caucus room wall alongside many of my heroes. And I'm not going to go into the whys and hows of what happened. There's a whole cottage industry of people out there who can do that. But I want to thank the people who did put their faith in me and stood by me. Sadly, I think we were at our best at the end. To Fran Mould, my Chief of Staff in particular, who was fiercely protective of me and has become a good friend, I'm particularly grateful. But there are other people I want to acknowledge and thank. The staff around Parliament always show incredible courtesy and friendliness, and I thank them. A special acknowledgement to our world-class parliamentary library that I use so much. They're great. For those journalists dedicated to actually reporting the news, thank you. You serve us well. Claire said that she's putting a few people together tomorrow night just as a sort of a farewell. I thank you for that, Claire. Thank you to my parliamentary colleagues. I wish you every success next year. It's time for a Labor government to go boldly, as our forebears have done. And remember, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I will be with you in spirit. A special mention to Damien O'Connor, who came up to me during the 2011 leadership contest and asked if I was going to stand. And I said I wasn't sure I'd get more than 1 vote. And he said, well, I'll vote for you. And so I threw in my name. In these contests, you understand, 2 votes are vastly superior than just the 1. To my electorate committee, Phil Harrington, Carol Symington, Dave Fowley, Jan-Marie and others who stood by me and didn't waver, I owe you a great debt of gratitude. And to my staff, I also want to offer my thanks. To Raywin Tate, my first EA, I'll miss Hannah Sperber's warmth, her fine mind and wonderful sense of humour. Teresa Colgan came to me after working with Helen Clark, baptism by fire. 5 foot nothing, of Irish descent. She's passionate, she's tough, with a huge heart, and she's made a difference in the lives of so many in my electorate. Alec McLean, who's here in the House today, worked for Muldoon before the Beehive was built. He's worked for Sir Don McKinnon, for Helen Clark and many others. When I became leader, he took a pay cut and joined me from the Governor-General's office. And when I stepped down, he took another pay cut and came with me. Apart from his clear lack of financial acumen, it's been great working with him, and I thank him. He retires with my departure, and I thank you, Alec, for your service, not just to me, but to Parliament in general. Yeah. I'm blessed with a handful of true friends and a tight family, and I want to thank my brother, Alan, and my sister Gillian, and my friends Mark and Cam for always being there. My daughter, when she was about 11, said to me, "Why are people so nasty and rude to you?" And I said, "I think it's because I'm a politician." And she said, "They should remember that you're a human being as well." It's tough for kids to see their parents attacked through the media, and it's impossible to hide it from them. When I came into Parliament, my kids Vitra and Anastasia were at school, and today they are young adults, and I'm immensely proud of them. My wife, Anushka, has simply been my rock, and I thank her. Mr. Speaker, many years ago, some friends and I followed the Nile River on a boat down to Juba in the south of Sudan. And from there, we paid a Somali truck driver to take us for 4 days across the south of Sudan into Kenya. At one of the stops, we were in the back of the truck, and we were peeling mangoes and throwing the skins and some stale bread we hadn't eaten over the side, and a dozen kids below us were fighting, we found, over our rubbish. It's probably the only food that they had that day. And it had a profound effect on me. It spurred me into humanitarian work around the world, and I've been privileged to work side by side with some wonderfully dedicated people. So when I received a call a couple of weeks ago offering a position in the same region, I didn't hesitate. It was, in many ways for me, completing the circle. My hope, as always, is that I can make something of a difference. And wouldn't you believe it, when I was in New York last week, I remembered I had a bank account there. Sir, politics for some is the book of their life. For me, it's been a chapter. At one point, I hoped it might have been multiple chapters. It's time for me to start a new chapter. So with that, I will say goodbye. I have enjoyed my time here immensely, and I enjoyed, most of all, I think, the comradeship that I've had across all of the parties. I wish you all and your families well for the Christmas break and the holidays. And whoever wins next year, and no prizes for guessing, obviously, who I'll be backing, take care of my country for me, and for God's sake, be bold. Thank you.
The House is suspended for the dinner break. I will resume the chair at 7:30.